Yet another irony, a discussion of a paper called The Tyranny of Work at a moment when literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of people are going to be out of work. And I guess that emphasizes the supreme importance of work in a capitalist society, but it also allows us to question why that is, and whether the need for paid employment doesn't impede other things of human importance, most essentially education as a practice of cognitive freedom. So the essay is a second that I co-wrote with my friend and colleague and collaborator Noonan-Coral. And if you've read the essay and you've looked at the notes, you'll know that we draw upon our experiences, myself as a university professor, Mireille as an adult educator, as well as some of the work we have done together. I'm not going to talk about the details. They're as clear as we can make them in the paper, and there's not much to add. Of course, if you have any questions or any thoughts, you can email them to me, and I'm happy to engage that way. I want to focus on the theoretical and philosophical aspects. That means I'm going to spend most of my time looking at part 1 and a little less time on part 3, and not at all on part 2, which was subdivided into two little essays, two little sections. So I'll begin by talking about our contrast between education and schooling. For the most part, the distinction is the same as the one we have made between education and training. Right? Schooling refers to those aspects of the institution that try to prepare us for life as compliant citizens, prepare us for life as workers, that teach us the sorts of things we need to know, the skills and the attitudes and the modes of self-preservation, of presentation, that allow us to find a place, to fit in. These are important, right? We're not arguing from an aristocratic perspective that only those wealthy enough to not have to worry about anything else can become educated. We absolutely do not share that view. Remember, that view was also criticized by Dewey. What we do argue, however, is that the skilling, schooling, training for compliance aspect of institutionalized education is at odds with, in tension with, in contradiction with the educational mission that still has to occur within the schools. So we look at schools as contradictory. We borrow the idea of schooling from the work of Ivan Illich, who was a critic of all institutionalized education. He argued that education had to be freed from school institutions entirely. We don't agree. We believe that schools are contradictory institutions and that the educational mission can still be carried out. Educators have a job, indeed a duty, to try and push the educational mission as far as we can against the schooling side of things, against the training side of things. But there is a value to the institution, right? There's a value to bringing people to a defined space, to bringing different people together in a classroom. Right? So we regard schools as contradictory spaces, right? And we regard schooling and education as contraries, but the one does not have to destroy or negate the other. We also explore the issue of schooling from the standpoint of the idea of hegemony, which was developed by the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci. And I don't want to get into a long, involved discussion of hegemony. I simply want to talk about it in connection with schooling. In connection with schooling, hegemony means that schools attempt to inculcate in students the ideas and dispositions they need in order to help replicate the society. So on the one hand, schools are involved with social reproduction, with as few problems as possible. People who are schooled in hegemonic ideas, let's say,